Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel, JPM.Cuisine. I am your host, JP. Well, these are my hands. Your host's hands. JPM.Cuisine. I'm your host, JP. And today we're going to be talking about these three beautiful, gorgeous knives in front of you. They are actually the same knife from the same series. They're all the Dalstrong Shogun Series X Gyutos, but one's a 6-inch, an 8-inch, and a 10-inch. And we're going to talk about why somebody would want to consider maybe owning one versus all three, or owning all three. There is one thing I want to note. The 6-inch and the 10-inch are both VG10 cores. The 8-inch was sent to me earlier, and this is actually an AUS 10V. I can't remember which one is the updated version, if they're updating to VG10s or if they're updating to the AUS 10V, but be aware that there might be some changes or some differences between what you can find online and what I'm showcasing here. Although it's very minimal, because the AUS 10V and the VG10, while they're not identical, very similar. Okay, so let's get into this. So I've been using the 6-inch, the 8-inch, and the 10-inch. The 8-inch much longer. I mean, that's primarily the knife that you see used most of the time, most frequently. Most commonly, the 8-inch knife. Okay, so why do they offer a 10-inch and why do they offer a 6-inch? Well, because you need to have all of these in order to do stuff, right? Maybe. Let's talk about that. All right. So early on in my career, when I was much younger, less wise, maybe less naive, definitely younger. I used to go into cooking with the perception that bigger is always better, and thus I always wanted the largest knife that they had on the market. So if you've ever seen my collection, one of the earlier knives that I used was like a 14-inch butcher style chef's knife. And man, let me tell you how awesome that was. It's very awesome for slicing large pieces of meat. Okay. It's not very practical to have a 14-inch knife for travel or for use. So the 10-inch, the 8-inch, and the 6-inch, light years ahead of that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the 14-inch had some uses, and it still has some use, especially if I'm carving large roast or breaking down large slabs of meat in order to make different cuts out of it. 14-inch is amazing. Slicers, amazing in that sense. But when I'm doing my basic day-to-day tasks, these three knives are going to have some of the greater utility. Now, the 6-inch, okay? If you've ever used a petty knife or a prep knife, once you grab this 6-inch, you're gonna be like, wow, this feels extremely identical to that. But with those knives, sometimes you have a much smaller handle. This is gonna give you the same feel as the 8-inch and the 10-inch with the handle, but you're gonna get that 6-inch style edge, profile. And you're going to feel extremely precise with this knife. So whenever you're cutting things with this knife, while it may be a chore or task to try to cut into large vegetables like cabbage or lettuce or something like that, depending on your technique, you're going to have to alter it if you use a 6-inch for that. But cutting into meats, anything smaller, herbs, this, that, and the other, you're gonna find that this knife is actually pretty effective and pretty comfortable to use. And you might end up reaching for this for the majority of the tasks because they aren't so large, okay? Easy to clean, easy to manage and maintain. So in that sense, don't write off a 6-inch or think that a 6-inch is built for a specific person with smaller hands, because That's not the case for this. This is the same handle as the 8 and the 10 inch. This just has a very particular utility, and you might find that the utility in this knife is a lot more common in your kitchen. So as you cook and prep food, you're gonna find that you might reach for this one the majority of the time just because of the way it feels. And I mean, these Dalstrongs, all of them are phenomenal, so there is no wrong choice when it comes to the knives. Now, 10 inch. The 10 inch is just gonna give you, you know, obviously 2 more inches in length, but it's gonna give you just that much more cutting area, cutting surface, especially if you're doing slicing where you're using the entire length of the knife. And this is gonna be phenomenal for that. Recently, I butterflied a pork loin to stuff and to roast, and this made mincemeat. Pardon the pun. No, but it literally made that job that much easier. Yes, it is sharp. Having a sharp knife is going to make that job easier. BG10, the core, and the, I think, 66 layer wrapped around it, it's going to make sure edge retention isn't an issue. But it feels phenomenal in your hand when you're using it for a task like that. So this might replace your slicer. So if you have a dedicated slicer or a long butchering knife, you might find that this one can also serve as a chef's knife in addition to those. So maybe instead of the other knives that you're considering, this 3-piece set right here might be all that you need for the majority of the tasks. I still think you're gonna need a paring knife, but you might be able to get away with the majority of the tasks using this. And then, of course, there's always the trusty 8-inch chef's knife, right? The 8-inch chef's knife, in this regard, with this profile, is always going to be phenomenal and have great utility in your kitchen. But I think that only lasts until you pick up the 6-inch. The 6-inch, you're going to get those delicate cuts. So if you're trimming fish, you're going to see that 2 inches can make a very big difference in terms of the precision and accuracy of your cuts based on how you use them. You're going to alter your grip, not necessarily grip, but you're going to alter your technique to better utilize these more efficiently. So with that being said, let's get some of the weights on these. We'll just do a straight comparison to see sort of how different there is in weight. And again, these are the Dalstrongs, so these are typically heavier to begin with. Okay, so the 307, 306 on the 10-inch. $280 on the 8-inch. And $230 on the 6-inch. So a little difference between them, not much. You guys already know that these are sharp, but we'll demonstrate. And why not? I have magazine paper. So 10-inch, you're gonna get a full surface, 10 inches of surface to cut. The 8-inch maintains its edge. The longest is because I've been using it longer, so in that sense, they are still gonna maintain their edge. The 6-inch, you're gonna notice, of course I run out of cutting surface because it's only 6 inches. That's not necessarily a bad thing, especially depending on what you're cutting. If you ever watch Jacques Pépin doing cutting on any of his videos or any of his shows, you might notice that while he does use a variety of knives, that he's got a smaller knife that he does a lot of, especially with shallots and things of that nature, that he's utilizing. And it's like a utility knife or a petty or prep knife that I see him do a lot of cuts with. So let's move these out of the way, and we'll just do some slicing of an onion with these knives. And we're just gonna do some slicing. Again, my arms are reached out here. I'm usually hunkered over something whenever I'm cutting, so I may not be cutting into them straight. But, for an onion, it still works. 6-inch works fine. 8-inch, same feel, not any variance in terms of the cutting. And then with the 10-inch, again, the same thing. You're gonna just use near the back of the knife. Now, I can tell you that they feel similar in sharpness, but having that extra weight of the 10" and doing that cut made it that much easier. You've got gravity on your side. Okay? And if you notice, when you're doing a dice on an onion, now this one's kind of at the core, so I've already messed this up a bit. But when you're doing a dice, you're going to do your horizontal cuts, you know, your cuts through, and then you're going to do your vertical cuts, right? And primarily with a tip. Now, when you're doing this with a 10", you can do the same thing. It's just, you know, you're going to be doing it from further away. That's why I said the precision sort of goes away with that, because the length from here to here, you lose control over the tip. Just the nature of the beast. 8", same thing. 6", obviously you're much closer, so you get a little bit more control, but you don't get as much leverage because you don't have as much weight. The 8" is going to be easier because you get a little bit more weight. 10", same thing. Okay, you're all pretty much fine for that manner. You might just have a little bit more comfort or a little bit more confidence in the cut using the 6", especially if you're filleting or boning some kind of fish. You can use a fillet knife, but you know, if this is what you have, you might find that that's pretty comfortable in that sense. So let's move this onion out of the way. All right, same thing for a potato now. So with a 10", man, you're gonna be able to get those cuts in very well. Don't write off a 10" just because it's intimidating in terms of the size. The 10" definitely has utility. Don't write off a 6" just because you think it's too small or too cute to be a chef's knife. Anybody who works in the kitchen, you're gonna grab the tool that works the best for the job, regardless of the size. You're gonna find utility in the way that it works. With a 6", obviously, the surface area is the issue. So if you're trying to cut a long carrot or something that's larger than this, cabbage is the first thing that comes to mind. This would not be the first thing I grab for cutting cabbage. However, cutting some onions, shallots, herbs, things of that nature, this would probably be the first thing I reach for, just because it's also easier to clean, even though it's, you know, just a few inches. It's lighter, so you get a little bit more comfort out of that, but it's easier to clean. There's less surface that you have to clean. This one, the 10" just makes it that much easier to cut through. You're gonna notice night and day difference. When we're talking about these knives, and we're just cutting through, the 10", you know, is obviously gonna offer some great utility in that sense. You're gonna have more efficiency in your cuts. The 6" is going to give you a little bit more precision in your cuts, okay? You get a nice, good feel in there. What I'm saying is, don't just write off the utility of these two knives because you have an 8". If the 8" is all you can afford, if all you can afford is an 8", that's all the budget allows for, yeah, definitely get the 8" over the 10" and the 6". I said it. If you can afford more and you're considering box sets or you're considering multiple sets here, you're wanting to get different knives, you might consider getting the 6", the 10", and the 8" because of the utility that these two are going to provide for other tasks. That while you can perform them with the 8", you're going to have a little bit of an easier job. If I'm cutting potatoes, a lot of potatoes, and I'm just doing either dicing or strips for French fries, this is the knife I'm going to grab because it's going to make it a lot easier to cut all those potatoes versus the 8". Yes, I could use the 8", but just because of the weight of this one and the way it feels, this just makes it easier for that task, okay? If I'm cutting up shallots, I'm probably not going to use this one because there's, over time, if I'm trying to do any kind of dicing or anything like that, my cuts are probably going to become very sloppy using a 10" as opposed to using a 6". So I'm going to have a little bit more precision in that for presentability. Disregard what I've done here, and I'm exposed out here. But those are my thoughts on these 3 knives. Can you live without them? Yeah. But should you? Why would you want to live without them when they feel so good in your hands and they work so well? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given some insight into these knives. If you are on the edge or on the fence of trying to determine whether or not, you don't need a 6-inch because you got an 8-inch. Well, I think you're going to change your mind if you get a 6-inch. Or if you're like, why do I need a 10-inch? It's too much knife. It's too big. Nope, not the case at all. If you're an actual chef or a cook and you're doing prep work in the kitchen with actual food, you're going to find that there's great utility in a 10-inch as well. Yes, you might find that you're using these two more than an 8-inch, but I think the 8-inch, it is going to be the best all around for travel, for use, because that one is pretty much the industry standard. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If the things that I said make sense, and you wanna share your opinion as well, I welcome those in the comments. I'm always open to any of the comments. If you want more information on these knives, I will be sharing the links to them in the description box as well. So look for that. And please let me know what you think about my videos. Let me know what you think about these knives. And if you really enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of the words of encouragement and all of the comments, the subscriptions. I really enjoy the views. I just want to say thank you guys for supporting my channel, supporting me, and I hope that I'll be able to produce content like this that you find entertaining and valuable as well. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Woo! Today we're going to be looking at bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Somebody touch my spaghetti!